Welcome back to Joey Movie Clips. Today, I bring you a 2013 Spanish TV series titled El Tiempo, Entre, Costuras. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. 20 years ago, she was a little seamstress in the lady boss's shop. 20 years later, she became a well-known fashion designer. When they met again, the elderly boss with silver hair couldn't recognize Sira. With tears in her eyes, Sira lifted her veil. The boss recognized her and hugged her tightly. Since Sira left, it had been 7 years. In these 7 years, Sira made great strides while Madame Manu underwent war, losing her shop and family members. Even today, she can't afford to pay the rent. Sira brought her to the restaurant. The once elegant Madame Manu was gobbling up the pastries. Sira wanted to help her and therefore invited her to work in her own shop. Madame Manu, being an experienced seamstress, caught up quickly. Coincidentally, a noble's daughter was having her coming-of-age ceremony and had ordered many outfits for herself and her friends. Madame Manu got involved and successfully completed the task on delivery day. This made the noble and her daughter very proud. To express gratitude, the noble invited Sira to the banquet for the coming-of-age ceremony. Sira was indecisive. The next day, she visited Madame Manu's residence. Seeing the barren room, Sira's eyes reddened again. She invited Madame Manu to live with her, both to save time and to avoid rent. But Madame Manu refused. While Sira was puzzled and upset, she heard a cough. Madame Manu had said she lived alone. Sira pressed for information, and out of no choice, Madame Manu guided her to a partition. And there was Shira's good friend, Bachi. They had worked together under Madame Manu since they were little. Bachi's husband was a rebel, and when the civil war ended, her husband died. Bachi was on the execution list as well. Every life choice, every step taken, defines the direction of future fate. But the outcome is sometimes not up to oneself. In an era where the whole society was reshaped by war and turmoil, no matter which step leaves a footprint, it could be washed away by this surging wave. Even in a peaceful and stable society, only those deep footprints made with both feet on the ground can be connected, pointing out the path of life. Holding back tears, Sira intended to amend Bachi's cruel fate. She approached her superior in Britain, hoping Bachi would be granted a new identity or at least removed from the execution list. However, the superior refused, stating that spies cannot maintain connections with past people or matters. Annoyed, Sira retorted, "I've sent so many pieces of intel. Is it too much to ask for your help once?" The superior responded, "It's precisely because each of your pieces of intel can save countless lives. Some even spare a country from war. We don't want a single person to jeopardize you and the entire intelligence network." With no other options, Sira turned to her ex-boyfriend, Ignar. But he said he couldn't help. "There are so many people asking me for this kind of favor. But I'm just a small man trying hard to make a living." Sira asked if he had started a family. "If it weren't for meeting you, I would have started my family earlier. Though my wife isn't as beautiful as you, she'll hold me when I have nightmares," he replied. This was also a dead end, and Sira despondently returned home. Madame Manu provided a solution. Today, the noble lady who threw the coming-of-age ceremony came again. Through their chat, she learned that the daughter's father was a trusted aide of the Minister of Justice. Perhaps she could ask him for help. It seemed the only way out. Sira told the superior that she intended to attend the banquet, and the superior immediately approved. However, she was asked to pay attention to a person named Darsawa. At the banquet, the noble lady was happy that Sira could make it. Taking this opportunity, Sira mentioned the favor. There were many such cases after the war, and the noble lady understood quickly. She asked Sira to talk to her husband directly later, and she would introduce them. However, they had to hurry, as her husband was leaving for Germany tonight. When the noble lady found her husband and gestured Sira to come over, the name Darsawa suddenly popped up. Sira didn't go over to talk, but instead mingled into the discussion about Darsawa to obtain this piece of intel. She missed her chance to talk to the noble lady's husband. After returning home with no success, Madame Manu, who was waiting for good news, left in dismay. Sira reported the intel to her superior that Darsawa would be coming to Madrid soon. The next day, she went to Madame Manu's apartment. The landlord was demanding them to either pay the rent or move out, threatening to report Bachi otherwise. Seeing this, Sira persuaded Madame Manu and Bachi to move in with her. However, a few days later, Ignar came. He didn't get any specific news but happened to visit because his feelings of love and hate for Sira was bothering him. He would come now and then to either warn or threat. Sira didn't care, but Bachi overheard and came out, fearing that she would implicate Sira. Ignar then realized that the person Sira asked him to help was Bachi. He warned Sira, "You will lose your good days because of her." Sira replied, "You were right that night when you accused me of being selfish. So now it's time to help those I love." Ignar left and requested Bachi to leave Madrid within 24 hours. Sira urged Bachi to flee with some money, and she would continue to solve her citizenship problem. But Bachi was reluctant to leave because her son was here, and she might never see him if she left. Sira held her quietly, waiting for Ignar to come. The next day, Ignar came as promised, but he was here to give Bachi new identification. Madame Manu and Bachi embraced each other excitedly. Bachi finally got to reunite with her son. When Sira thanked Ignar, he stubbornly said, "I didn't help you, I helped Bachi. After all, it was her who limped over to us despite mockery. She introduced me to you." Recalling the past always makes one smile and cry. Sira apologized. "I was young and ignorant at the time. I didn't cherish what I had, and I'm sorry."
Pero yo era una niña. Y no supe valorar lo que tenía. Perdóname.
Ignar accepted Shira's apology. After that, he no longer disturbed Sira. Sira started her most important task. Her superior requested her to get close to Darsawa. Darsawa is a Portuguese businessman who seemed to be planning a partnership with the Germans. They needed to know the contents of the cooperation. To get close to Darsawa, she had to win over a noble lady named Sterling, the wife of the German spokesperson. Darsawa will soon visit Madrid, and Sterling will hold a banquet in his honor. Sira needs to attend this banquet. She immediately took action. First of all, she needed to make Sterling her guest in order to possibly get an invitation to the banquet.